My mustache look okay? I think there's something to that. I mean, the interesting thing is the metaphors that are used to describe sound often have nothing to do with the sound itself. Light, dark, heavy, intense, quiet. Even quiet music can be incredibly intense. Light. I think attitude of the musician, of course, defines what those metaphors are, even if the sound can be very similar, you know. It could be even the same type of sound, like an Alvin Lucier sound might be very similar to a drone metal band sound. The sound, not the concept, not the anything else, but because of the intention of the musician, it's in such different places. And I'd say with Sunn that, of course, Monoliths and Dimensions was a huge turning point for us in some ways, but it didn't just drop out of the sky. It's the result of many years of ambition, both making the record, but also continuing that group, continuing to do that project, and all of the opportunities we had and could experience. So I think there's an optimism there and a confidence with what we're doing that might suggest it's moving more light. I think one thing I'm waiting for is a reaction from the metal, a portion of the metal scene on the vocabulary we're using on life metal, like taking it as a provocation of some sort of standard. I didn't discover Lamont Young until after Sunn was formed, and also Eliam Radig, Tony Conrad, and Angus MacLeese, and several other I don't want to use the word minimalist. I think that's misleading. It's the courageous composers from the 60s and 70s and 80s working in new music, I guess. But we were really into electric jazz, specifically around the Miles Davis canon of the early 70s, which is incredibly experimental music and really amazing stuff. Also, I was very into electronic music and different types of drone music. I love black metal. I mean, and I'm not I've been into black metal for a long time too. But Sunn is not a black metal band. We did make an album called Black One, which dealt with concepts of black metal and had black metal musicians playing on it. And Attila, of course, is in the band. He's a member of Sunn as well, but it's not a black metal band. That's too small for us. It's like these genres are just too small. And there's also a sense of conservatism by declaring a genre which I don't think works with Sunn. And we've been extremely fortunate that people pay attention to what we're doing, and the retroaction of that is it allows us to explore and be courageous with stuff, and people follow it, you know. So, but I'm a big black metal fan still. There's a couple of different things I want to say about that. The first thing is that we incorporated the ropes later in our live thing as another piece of equipment to allow us to get deeper into the music when we're playing it, instead of, because they allow each person to be a little bit more ambiguous on stage. It allows us to focus more on the music. And it also allows the audience to go, even if they go 10% more into a kind of other space during the concert, I think that's positive. Robes weren't invented by black metal bands, but the power of ceremonial vêtements is so strong in the psyche of humans that it brings you, it encourages you to believe a suggestion that you're involved in something different, you know, greater, whether it's a ceremony, a ritual, or something more than a concert, or a concert with significance, or it's just a formality, it's a formal presentation. I always loved that the Bad Seeds wore killer suits, you know? It's like, wow, those guys take us seriously. They're still like rough, dirty dudes, but they're like really, they look, you know, they have dignity through that. And there's something about the robes there too. There's, I think, there's so many waves of music that come and go. One thing I noticed last year, there's a lot of costumes and ceremonial garb and presentation in metal, a lot more than there was in the 90s. It kind of overtook the makeup, I think, at some point, or the leather. And it gets really elaborate, and it's, you know, it can be criticized as fantasy or whatever, you know. But if those musicians are able to access something deeper by incorporating that, I think it's positive, regardless of what I think about their music. I mean, the genuine aspect of embodying an idea is one of the main reasons of pursuing music and art, I think. So if that helps in some way. But now it's like Sunn has the robes, and it's a whole thing too. We have a designer who we've worked with for 10 years. She's like an incredible fashion designer. She's a master of hoods. Her name's Alexandra Groover. And we commission new ones for new members and stuff, and it's kind of it notches up the invitation, you know, somehow. If you're borrowing a robe or if you get a robe. So that's fun. But you know, we're not like Kiss, where we're gonna take off the robes. And it's like Kiss without the makeup, and it's gonna suck, you know? It is a mystical band. But if you think that, then it's true, right? If it makes you think that, that's your mind is in that space. So that's great, as long as you consider it something interesting. I mean, whatever we think about it doesn't really matter. It's like, whatever mysticism means to you. I mean, personally, I've always been super interested in esotericism of many forms, and it comes from a childhood of being interested in a lot of certain kinds of literature and stuff, I think, and just following that. But the most powerful esoteric encounters I've ever had have been in my own mind, in a very, just a highly aware conscious state. They haven't been in a mystical, like obscure occult ceremony or under a heavy drug load or something like that. It's just like you're in the mountains for 3 days and you have this whole practice you continue to do, and your mind is just super aware. So, but that's just my mind, you know. We grew up in the same city, even the same neighborhood, even the same high school. And we had our first bands in Seattle. And I lived in he moved to Los Angeles. I moved to Europe, but then I moved to Los Angeles for a year, and in the late in 97, 98. And that's when we started Sunn. And that's when he started Southern Lord Records too. That was an important year. Mainly because it's kind of a miracle we are still alive after that year, considering the kind of stuff we were doing. But I moved to New York the next year, and we haven't lived in the same area since. And there's a lot of, that might be one of the main reasons why it's lasted 20 years, because we have our separate lives, but we have this deep friendship and brotherhood together. So when we come together to work on this shared, like, this project, which we deeply enjoy, it's almost like a celebration as well of reunion as atmosphere around it. It's not like, oh fuck, I gotta go to the fucking rehearsal again, and that dick has been pissing me off the last 3 weeks, or the drummer's late again, or somebody, you know, all these like mundane things. Of course there is a lot of that, but it's got a little bit more elevation somehow, yeah. Absolutely. We bring our experiences back to this, and our points of view, and our dissonances between those experiences or past ones, and maybe new collaborators or old collaborators. They all have their life experience, and we bring it in. And there's this space that we come to that is this sound. But it can all be very subjective too once you turn on the amps, and you know, this is like heavy saturated guitar roar going, you know. Oh yeah, I've been listening a lot to VOUS for the past 2 months, you know. I guess I'm the way I grew up, and mainly coming out of underground music culture, calling yourself an artist was kind of, it's almost like a bourgeois move. I'm an artist, you know, like you're separate somehow. And I know it's absurd to think that way, but it's still in my mind. And I've kind of come to a place now where I think artists are acknowledged as artists by others before. That's the validity of art. Art itself is very difficult to define as well, but you always know when you're in the presence of art. There's like a truthfulness or a depth of encouraging your mind to, you know, consider. I guess the person who makes that is an artist, but what is that? It's not really a personality type or a character, is it? In our culture too, I think there's other, well, there's definitely other detrimental overtones on the profession or quality of a character of an artist being someone who's taking money from other things that, like in France, you might get a lot of subventions for your work that could be used to help people survive in the world and stuff like that. Or if you're in contemporary art, your work sells for millions of euros, but it's purely an alternate investment vehicle for finance industry and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of difficult things. But I truly believe, and I deeply believe, like, it will never evaporate art and the power and the importance of it. They're awesome, and live they're amazing. I mean, it's like deep trance. Their audience is really ready to go there too, and they have things like humor, endurance, and persistence. To, you know, all these qualities that help work with time, elasticity, and stuff I like. It was a little confusing telling people who the support act was for the French tour by saying France. France support, or first part, France. Especially Anglophones are like, what does that mean, you know? Premiere part, France. Premiere partie, France.